Hi everyone. Now, let's move on to topic 8 of Unit 2, Attack Vectors and Exploits. An attack vector is the path or method used by attackers to enter a system, while an exploit is the technique or code used to take advantage of a weakness, vulnerability. Simply put, attack vectors are the doors attackers use, and exploits are the tools to break in. To help you focus your study, here are some sample questions you might encounter. 2-mark questions. Define an attack vector. What is an exploit in cybersecurity? Give 2 examples of common attack vectors. How is a vulnerability different from an exploit? Name 2 software-based attack vectors. 10-mark questions. Explain different types of attack vectors with examples. Discuss the relationship between vulnerabilities, exploits, and payloads. Differentiate between network-based and application-based attack vectors. Describe social engineering as an attack vector and its common techniques. Write a detailed note on how attack vectors are exploited in real-world cyber attacks. An attack vector is the route or method that hackers use to break into a computer system, network, or application. It can be thought of as the doorway that cybercriminals exploit to gain unauthorized access. Attack vectors take advantage of vulnerabilities, which are weaknesses in software, hardware, or even human behavior. For example, if a website has poor security coding, a hacker can use that weakness as a vector to inject malicious code. Similarly, if a person clicks on a phishing email, the attacker gains access through human error. An exploit, on the other hand, is the actual technique, code, or tool that hackers use to carry out the attack once they find a vulnerability. It is like the weapon that goes through the doorway created by the attack vector. For instance, if a system has an unpatched security bug, a hacker may use a specific exploit script to take control of the machine. Another example is ransomware. The attack vector might be a malicious email attachment, while the exploit is the code that installs the ransomware once the file is opened. In short, attack vectors are the paths, and exploits are the weapons used by hackers. Understanding both is important to protect systems from cyber attacks. Types of attack vectors. Attack vectors are the different paths or methods hackers use to break into a system or network. Think of them as entry doors that attackers try to open, sometimes by force, sometimes by tricking the user. Network-based attack vectors. These attacks focus on weaknesses in computer networks like the internet, Wi-Fi, or local networks. Hackers exploit flaws in protocols, configurations, or services. Examples: man-in-the-middle, MITM. The hacker secretly intercepts communication between 2 people, like stealing your banking details when you log in. Distributed denial of service, DDoS. Hackers overload a website with too much traffic, so it crashes and becomes unavailable. IP spoofing. An attacker fakes their computer's IP address to trick the target into trusting them. Real-life example: when an online shopping site goes down because hackers flooded it with fake traffic, DDoS. Application-based attack vectors. Here, hackers target software applications like web browsers, mobile apps, or databases. They look for coding errors, bugs, and exploit them. Examples: SQL injection. Hackers insert malicious code into a database query to steal information, like usernames and passwords. Cross-site scripting, XSS. Injecting harmful scripts into websites so that they steal user data when someone visits the site. Remote code execution, RCE. Hackers run their own code on your system through a software flaw. Real-life example: a hacker steals credit card info by exploiting a bug in an e-commerce website's payment form. Physical attack vectors. These require the attacker to have direct access to the device. Examples: plugging in an infected USB drive that installs malware. Installing a hardware keylogger on a keyboard to capture everything you type. Real-life example: an employee finds a free USB outside the office, plugs it in, and unknowingly installs spyware. Human/social engineering attack vectors. These target people instead of technology. Hackers trick users into giving away sensitive information. Examples: phishing, fake emails or messages that look real, like a bank email asking for your password. Pretexting, pretending to be someone else, like IT support, to gain trust. Baiting, offering something attractive, like free music downloads, that secretly contains malware. Real-life example. You get an email saying, "Your account is locked. Click here to reset your password." When you click, your data is stolen. Supply chain attack vectors. Instead of attacking the main target directly, hackers attack a third-party vendor or supplier and use it as a backdoor. Example: hackers compromise a software update so that when users install it, they unknowingly download malware. Real-life example: the SolarWinds cyberattack 2020, where hackers inserted malware into a software update, affecting thousands of companies. An exploit is a piece of code, software, or technique that attackers use to take advantage of a weakness, known as a vulnerability, in a computer system, application, or network. In simple terms, if a vulnerability is like a loophole in security, then an exploit is the tool that hackers use to take advantage of it. Exploits allow attackers to perform actions that the system was never meant to permit, such as stealing sensitive data, spreading malware, or gaining unauthorized control. There are different types of exploits. Zero-day exploits are among the most dangerous because they target vulnerabilities that are unknown to the software developer or security community. Since no patch exists yet, attackers can cause severe damage. For example, a hacker may discover a flaw in a new web browser and immediately use it to steal user passwords before a fix is released. Remote exploits are used to attack systems over a network without needing physical access. For instance, an attacker might exploit a weakness in a server's software to take control of it from another country. On the other hand, local exploits require that the attacker already has some form of access to the system, such as logging into a user account and then using the exploit to gain higher privileges like administrator rights. The lifecycle of an exploit usually follows 4 main steps. First, the attacker identifies a vulnerability in software or hardware. Next, they develop exploit code to take advantage of this flaw. Then, they deliver the exploit via an attack vector, such as phishing emails, malicious websites, or infected USB drives. Finally, once the exploit is triggered, the attacker executes the payload, which may include installing malware, launching ransomware, stealing sensitive data, or even shutting down the system. For example, imagine a vulnerable banking app with poor input validation. A hacker could exploit it using an SQL injection attack to bypass login credentials and access customer accounts. This shows how dangerous exploits can be and why fixing vulnerabilities quickly is critical to cybersecurity. A vulnerability is a weakness or flaw in a computer system, network, or software that can be misused by attackers. For example, an outdated operating system that has not been patched contains security loopholes that hackers can target. An exploit is the actual method or code used by the attacker to take advantage of this weakness. For instance, if a web application has an SQL injection vulnerability, the exploit would be the attacker's SQL query crafted to steal confidential data. Once the exploit successfully breaks into the system, the attacker delivers a payload, which is the malicious action carried out. The payload could be installing ransomware, stealing files, or creating a backdoor for future access. In short, the vulnerability is the weakness, the exploit is the technique to abuse it, and the payload is the harmful result of the attack. To prevent attack vectors, organizations must take proactive steps. One of the most important practices is keeping all software, applications, and operating systems up to date with the latest patches, as many attacks exploit outdated systems. Security tools such as intrusion detection systems, IDS, and intrusion prevention systems, IPS, help monitor and block suspicious activity. Following the principle of least privilege, POLP, ensures that users and applications only have the minimum permissions necessary, reducing the damage if an account is compromised. User education is also vital. Many attacks like phishing or social engineering rely on tricking people rather than just technical flaws. Finally, regular vulnerability scanning and penetration testing can help identify weaknesses before attackers do, allowing organizations to fix them in advance. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe.